The imperial palace, rising like a crown of gold and stone above the ancient capital, was a world the common eye could only dream of. Yet the deepest, most forbidden corner of this grand fortress was the imperial harem, a place wrapped in secrets so thick that even the moonlight hesitated to slip through its carved lattice windows. And inside this hidden universe lived hundreds of women, each trained, tested, polished, and perfected, not merely to please the emperor, but to guard the balance of power in a kingdom where a single whisper could change the course of history. And at the center of this world lay the strangest set of bedroom rules humanity had ever witnessed. Rules crafted not from desire, but from politics, astrology, superstition, and centuries of fear that the heart of the emperor, if ever influenced too deeply, could collapse an empire. No woman, no matter how beautiful, talented, or royal, was allowed to approach the emperor on her own, for initiative was considered the first step toward ambition, and ambition inside the harem was more dangerous than any external rebellion. Instead, she had to wait, silent as a prayer, for the chief eunuch to appear at her door with a single phrase, "The emperor calls upon you." That phrase could turn a servant girl into a legend or a favorite consort into a forgotten memory. The chosen woman underwent a ritual of preparation that lasted hours. Her skin polished with crushed pearl paste, her hair washed with lotus-infused oils, her breath perfumed with a secret herbal mixture known only to the palace healers, and her jewelry selected not by taste, but by the astrologers who read the emperor's energy for the night. If he was troubled, she wore calming blue jade. If he was decisive, she wore gold. If he was restless, she wore moonstone to absorb tension. But the most curious part was the rule of the rotating chambers, for the emperor was forbidden from spending the night in the same room twice in a row. Each bedroom carried its own energy, its own history, and its own spiritual alignment. And the belief was that sleeping repeatedly in one chamber would create emotional patterns that could make him predictable, thereby vulnerable to manipulation. Every chamber held its own story, one lined with tapestries depicting celestial guardians, another with phoenix feathers meant to bless the bloodline, another lit by lanterns burning oils meant to repel bad dreams and hidden spells. When the woman entered, she could not choose where she sat, stood, or lay. Her position in the chamber was a silent declaration of her rank, her political significance, and the level of trust she held. Higher-ranking women slept closest to the emperor's left, the heart side, while others slept to the right, the side of caution and control, and yet none of them were allowed to touch him first. Even reaching to adjust his robe could be interpreted as ambition, and that was enough to cost her everything. The emperor, despite his immense authority, was never alone during the first moments of the night, for behind a thin silk screen stood two shadow keepers, elder women chosen for their unwavering loyalty, who watched the chosen woman's posture, expressions, breath, and smallest movements, not to protect the emperor, but to ensure the woman carried no intent of influence, seduction beyond protocol, emotional attachment, or desire for power. Their silent report to the chief consort could elevate a woman forever or bury her into obscurity. And then there was the chilling rule of dawn. The moment the first light touched the palace roof, the woman had to leave the chamber silently and without turning back, for turning back was believed to bind her fate to the emperor's heart, creating dangerous attachments and subtle imbalances in the political structure of the harem. Many women, trembling with fear, walked backward out of the room, terrified even their shadow might break the rule. But what truly shaped life inside the harem were the emotions buried beneath these rules, the rivalry hidden behind smiles, the alliances formed through secrets, the silent competitions fought not with weapons, but with grace, speech, posture, fragrance, and the smallest details of etiquette. Every step was watched, every whisper decoded, every breath interpreted. For in a place where hundreds of women waited for the same man, survival was an art, ambition was a risk, and dignity was a weapon, polished daily. Yet the emperor himself was a prisoner of the same rituals, trapped in a life where no woman could speak to him honestly, where every gesture carried intention, and where he was adored by many but known by none. He lived surrounded by beauty, but starved of truth, worshipped as a god yet isolated as a ghost. And thus, the harem became a palace within a palace, an empire of silence, strategies, fears, and dreams, where the strangest bedroom rules ever created were not simply traditions, but the invisible threads that held together a kingdom built on power, secrecy, and the unspoken law that the emperor's heart must forever remain unclaimed. And yet, even with all these intricate laws, silent hierarchies, and strange bedroom rituals shaping every night of the imperial harem, the true mystery of this hidden world lived not in the rules themselves, but in the emotions they tried so desperately to control. For beneath the layers of silk, beneath the flawless smiles, beneath the rehearsed grace and carefully measured expressions, the women of the harem were living paradoxes, trained to be desirable but forbidden to desire, educated to be wise but forbidden to speak freely, raised to dream of the emperor yet forbidden to hope for his heart. And this tension, this impossible balance between longing and obedience, created a quiet storm that drifted through the harem like incense smoke, invisible yet unforgettable. Alliances formed and broke with the delicate force of butterfly wings. Some women bonded over shared fears, whispering secrets under moonlit corridors where lanterns flickered like trembling hope, while others sharpened their ambitions in silence, waiting for the perfect moment to rise. A dropped hairpin, a misplaced scarf, a slightly smudged cosmetic, or even an unusually chosen perfume could become the seed of suspicion. Because in a world where the emperor's attention was the highest currency, every detail could spark envy, betrayal, or revelation. The eunuchs, those silent guardians of order, moved like shadows through the palace, bearing witness to every emotional earthquake hidden behind elegance. They knew who wept after each unsuccessful night, who counted the stars through their windows, praying to be chosen, who wrote letters to families they would never see again, and who stared at their own reflections wondering whether their beauty was a blessing or a curse. Meanwhile, the emperor continued living inside a golden cage built not of iron, but of expectations, rituals, and inherited fears. Each night, a carefully choreographed performance. Each choice a political calculation. Each moment of tenderness weighed against tradition. He was the most powerful man in the empire, yet he belonged to no one, not even to himself. For the rules that governed the harem were older than his crown and stronger than his desires. And as the seasons shifted, as spring flowers blossomed and withered, as autumn winds rustled through the palace gardens, as winter wrapped the kingdom in silence, the harem remained unchanged, a place where hundreds of hearts waited for a single moment that could rewrite their destiny, where destiny itself was not decided by love or fate, but by ritual, rank, and timing. Still, legends whispered of one night, one extraordinary night, when the emperor broke a rule not for rebellion, not for passion, not for power, but for a reason no one could understand, a reason so human that it cracked the armor of centuries. After sharing a quiet moment with a woman whose name history refused to record, he watched her rise at dawn, bow, and walk away as the rule demanded. But just before she reached the threshold, she paused, not turning back, not breaking the law, but hesitating long enough for her shadow to fall across him like a silent confession. And for the first time in his life, the emperor felt the weight of a rule not as protection, but as a prison. It is said that he lifted his hand, not to call her back, for that would have broken the sacred order, but to touch the spot where her shadow had touched his, a gesture small as a breath, yet powerful enough to shift the air in the chamber. The woman never saw it, never knew it, never claimed anything from that moment, but the emperor carried that silent imprint with him long after she disappeared into history. And so, the final truth of the imperial harem is this. Its strangest bedroom rules were never created to control desire. They were created to protect the empire from the one force more dangerous than ambition, more unpredictable than politics, and more powerful than beauty itself. Heart. Because in a world where everything was regulated, predicted, measured, and controlled, the heart remained the only thing they could never write a rule for, the only danger they could never fully contain, and the only secret that could rewrite an empire from the inside without ever being spoken aloud.